The NFL is going to the dogs, not literally, but at least figuratively in Las Vegas, where the Puppies grabbed the cash to the tune of 9-6-1 against the spread last week. That means the Dogs have now barked to the tune of 36-19-2 versus the odds makers over the past 4 weeks combined. And as I always say, guys, when the Pups are barking like that, only two things are happening. They're both bad. Gamblers are losing their shirts, and bookmakers are making big money. Hi, everyone. I'm DeMarco. Along with me, Steve Budin. Every Sunday throughout this football season, we're joining you here with our pregame show as we break down key games from a gambling perspective. 4 games we're isolating today: Miami, Buffalo, Cleveland, Cincinnati, San Diego, Kansas City, and the Jets-Carolina clash. And a little later in the show, Steve and I will be discussing the importance of knowing when to place your bets and why it's so crucial to shop around for the best price. And the game we're going to be looking back at is that game with Indianapolis and Baltimore last week, because those two factors came into play determining whether you won, you lost, or you pushed your bet that one in that game.
Can't get lazy looking for lines.
Exactly, and as a former bookmaker, you know that's the truth. Now, before we get started, a few more ATS trends for you to digest. Double-digit dogs, 11-5-1 against the spread the past 4 weeks. That's a complete reversal from earlier in the season when the double-digit favorites were money in the bank. And for the season, the Puppies hold a slight edge against the favorites in Las Vegas. They're 8 games over 500 versus the odds makers. Meanwhile, road teams now 87-71-1 against the spread after going 10-5-1 versus the number last week. And again, as I always like to point out, some guys don't realize it, but why are the road teams doing well? Because the underdogs are doing well. Road teams generally are the dogs. And then finally, the one trend that we always like to bring up because it has been money in the bank all season long, it's the straight-up winners. Guys, they went 10-5-1 against the spread last week. They are 127-31-2 against the spread at the betting window during the regular season. That is nearly 81%. If we had that magic formula, if we had that genie in a bottle that we could say, hey, this team's going to win straight up, if we had it, we would be in Vegas. We wouldn't be doing this show. We'd be betting every straight up winner. But as we last week,
Raiders and KC?
Exactly.
How do you pick that?
I mean, who would have guessed that these two teams would win the game straight up, let alone cover the spread? But it just shows you it is a phenomenal trend that has held through. And in my 25 years as a handicapper, I've never seen straight-up winners cover at an 80-some% clip.
If they did, they wouldn't need us.
Exactly. By the way, those straight-up winners since the start of preseason, 178, 36, and 6 versus the odds makers. Now, let's kick it off with our first game today, the AFC East clash between the Dolphins and Bills in Buffalo. Miami, the slight 3.5-point favorite in this one. Now, the Dolphins, idle since last Thursday, when as a 3.5-point road dog, they upset Carolina 24-17. Meanwhile, the Bills, coming off an 18-15 home loss to Jacksonville, that was Buffalo's 3rd straight home loss. Do you go with the home dog here, or do you lay it with the Dolphins?
Well, I had another perfect Sunday last week with my premium plays, extending my run now to 4-1 with those plays on the website. Obviously looking to keep that momentum going. Buffalo interim head coach Perry Fuel has got his hands full. And to make matters worse, the already banged-up Bills suffered 4 more injuries in last week's heartbreaking loss to the Jags. Miami, on the other hand, in the absence of their best offensive player and leading rusher, Ronnie Brown, got a very strong showing from Ricky Williams last week against Carolina as he rushed for 119 yards and 3 touchdowns. It's obvious that Ricky is ready to lead this Miami team. I just don't think the Bills can come back emotionally or physically from last week. I'm going to go with the Dolphins here, lay the points. I'm going to call Geico, get a little insurance, buy it down, and stick with the fish.
Okay. And, hey, guys, listen, Miami's won 2 straight and 5 out of 7, and that is a streak that coincides with the 4th week of the season when, after Miami started the year 0-3, they hammered Buffalo at home 38-10, a game in which they dominated time of possession, 37 minutes, ran for 250 yards. Now, even though Ronnie Brown is out, Ricky Williams certainly is going to be able to shoulder the load. Last week against Carolina on the road, 22 carries, 119 yards, and the bottom line here is Buffalo can't stop the run. 31st in the league. There's only 32 teams, guys. They give up 166 yards a game. That's 4.9 yards a carry. You alluded to it. Another crippling injury on the offensive line for the Bills last week. This is a team that's given up 27 sacks on the year. Miami, 29 sacks on the season. They had 6 sacks of Trent Edwards in the first game. Ryan Fitzpatrick is starting. He is no more mobile than Trent Edwards is, so I'm with you. The Dolphins have covered 3 straight in the series. They've won and covered 3 straight as well in the series. And by the way, they've covered 3 straight on the road, I should say, coming into this game. So I'm with you. You buy down the half point and you go with the Dolphins in this contest. Now, the next game is Cincinnati and Cleveland. I warned everybody, in my radio interviews last week that the Bengals were in a precarious position because coming off the huge upset of Pittsburgh, a young team prone to be in a letdown situation. That's exactly what happened. They lost 20-17 at Oakland. Meanwhile, the Browns up 24-3 at Detroit. They lose 38-37, getting a couple of TDs here. Do you lay it or do you grab them?
Well, as a bookmaker, I don't remember seeing the Bengals a 2-touchdown favorite since like 1990. But guys, that's just how bad the Browns are. They finally got something going offensively last week as Brady Quinn threw 4 touchdown passes, and they still found a way to lose. The Bengals, on the other hand, suffered an embarrassing loss last week to the Raiders, and I'm sure they'll be coming back with a vengeance, and that's why we see such a big line here. However, bettors beware. The first time these two teams met this year, it took the final play in OT for the Bengals to win 23-20. The Browns, they always get up to play the Bengals. And just like last week with the Redskins in Dallas, I'm going to roll the dice here, take the 2 touchdowns with Cleveland as they get ready for what should be the last important game for the Mangini era. Now look, I know I said last week, never bet on Cleveland, but in actuality, I'm not betting on them. It's just a free pick. You're sticking a gun to my head. I'm taking the 2 touchdowns, going with the trends.
Okay, well, hey, listen, the first time these two met, the Bengals were coming off a Steelers upset, so they had a letdown. That's why they needed overtime to win at 23-20. Last week against the Raiders, the Bengals were playing without Cedric Benson, and yet they still managed to outgain Oakland 348-275 because Bernard Scott stepped in for Benson and ran for 119 yards on 21 carries. Now, Benson's expected to be back today. Scott is still there, and the Browns can't stop the run. They are 29th in the league, giving up 155 yards a game, 4.6 yards a carry. Bengals are undefeated in the division, 5-0, 4-1 against the spread. Their only failure against the Browns in that overtime first meeting. Yes, you are right. This is the biggest favorite they have been since 1990. But the Browns offense, subtract that aberration last week against Detroit. I mean, this is a team that had 5 offensive touchdowns in their previous 15 games. I say you go with the Bengals. I'm looking for them to rebound big here with a dominating defensive effort. I mean, remember, we were just talking about the Browns being shut out and looking miserable on Monday night 2 weeks ago against Baltimore. I think the Bengals are going to win this one in a low-scoring game. I can see this one being somewhere like 24-3, 24-7. It's going to be ugly, a lousy game to watch, but I'll lay the points. Would I bet on it myself? No, but I'm going to go the other way with it.
I know you love stats. The underdog's 9-0 in all Bengal games so far this year.
Well, and you know what they say, all good things must come to an end, including this segment. We're going to take a short break, and when we return, Steve and I will discuss the importance of knowing when to place your bets and why it's so crucial to shop around for the best price. And we're going to be looking at last Sunday's Colts-Ravens game as a prime example.